The webinar is now live. It's on Facebook. And so just give people a couple of minutes to come in. I'm in a bit of a noisy place. Are you hearing chickens in the background, or are these blocking the sound?
I'm a lawyer man. I'm a very happy man when I hear chickens.
But can you actually hear them though? Can you hear them?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we can hear them.
Oh, okay. All right.
And we envy you.
Okay, I think we just have a few people in today, but I think, yeah, let's give them a couple more minutes. Okay, I think let's just get started. People will come in along the way. So karibuni sana, our participants. I'm seeing that we have gentlemen. This time we actually did the advertising on Twitter. Usually we do the ads on Facebook. So it's interesting to see there's a very different demography that we have today. So karibu sana, welcome to our panelists and our participants. And today we are talking about matrimonial property and just the whole question of who gets what when marriage is over. So like I was telling Kina Robert, there's chicken and other sounds behind me. Let's assume we're in a traditional compound and household, just talking about these life issues, even as life continues to happen. So to begin with, I'll just give a very brief definition of what matrimonial property, not strong on the legalese, because Anne's going to come to that, and then we'll introduce our panelists, and then just really move into the topic of the day. So the Matrimonial Property Act in Kenya defines matrimonial property as a common home or household effects and any other immovable and movable property jointly owned and acquired during the marriage. This excludes property owned by either spouse before marriage unless it's used during marriage as a matrimonial home. So this is really part of the lifestyle law series. We've been doing it. This is a 6th episode, and just the concept of just really enabling Kenyans to access information, to access advice with highly respected lawyers. We've been doing it with the top law firm in the country, Musimi and Company Advocates, great law firm, great lawyers, to just really come and to meet the public and to share their information, share their insights in a way in which really we are building the community as a whole. So to begin with, I'll introduce our lawyer, and her name is Anne Mbogua. So Anne is a senior partner and head of the litigation department at Musimi and Company Advocates. She's a lawyer with more than 25 years experience in legal practice. The litigation department under her leadership specializes in practice areas in commercial litigation, banking law, environmental and land law, and other areas. Mrs. Anne Mbogua, jointly with other family law practitioners, is actively working with the judiciary and other stakeholders in initiatives targeting the improvement of the delivery of justice in the family division of the High Court of Kenya. She bears an appreciation of the role of the law in social and economic spheres of life, and in partnership, yes, and so she is also part of the lawyers that established the Kenya Christian Professionals Forum. She upholds the view that mediation is the best form of resolving civil and family-related disputes, among others, as it promotes consultations and cohesion between parties. Through her practice as a mediator, she has successfully guided various parties in resolving very contentious disputes out of court, which saves families the agony and costs of protracted litigation. And she spearheaded the formation and foundation of the Christian Mediation Center, Kenya. So karibu sana, Anne. We are very, very happy to have you here with us again. Always exciting really to hear things from your perspective. You have a lot of sobriety, a lot of wisdom. And then we're also very, very honored to be joined by Robert Burale. Robert is not a stranger to any of us. A very big celebrity, but not just celebrity, but a man of God, a man with great wisdom. And for me, I think, because I feel that as a conservative society, which is a bit afraid to talk the truth and to just really say this is how things are, one of the things that really I find very admirable about him is that he's just very honest and very, very real. And that's very necessary, especially for the younger generation, for them to be able to, if they're really going to be able to live quality lives, optimum lives, then it's important for them to learn from the mistakes that we made. So that's one of the key things about Robert. That's one of the key things that he does. That's very important. We celebrate that. So Robert Burale is a top Kenyan author. He's an actor, minister of the gospel, and founder of The Naked Truth. He's a renowned man of God and popularly respected for being one of the finest masters of ceremonies in Kenya. #square.co.ke listed him as the 6th best MC in Africa, citing the 2019 research by a South African research firm. And Robert founded The Naked Truth as a way of inspiring and uplifting people from the harrowing disappointments of life. The platform provides a forum for various individuals to express their feelings and cast light on society's unsavory nature. It's mainly remained relevant because the man of God keeps injecting new, fresh ideas and talent that kindle the flames of the program. So Robert, I'm sure a lot of us who've been following his work really know that he talks openly about his own relationship background. He was married, he got divorced, and yeah, so we have him here to just talk about his experience and the question of how do we make sure, how does when the marital property issue comes up at a time of divorce and separation, because I think we've seen a lot of drama when it comes to disputes of marital property. That's a word that we use. And a lot of very high profile people have been like brought into the public. So we're just really bringing him here to find out from him, from his experience and from his own reflections, because it's an issue that he's given a lot of thought to. That how does, if one is leaving, ending the marriage or the relationship, how does one do it in a way in which there's a level of civility and that there's also fairness, because it's a lot of the time people use property as a way to exact revenge. So karibu sana, Robert, maybe you could just give us a background of your experience and what it was like to begin with.
Well, thank you very much for hosting me. When you asked me to come, I would only have given two answers, which is yes and absolutely yes. So it's an honor to be here. I don't take it for granted that you deemed fit to invite me, and to Madam Anne as well. Thank you for being here. Well, for me, I didn't have any problems, to be honest with you. Maybe we also understand that it's how two people separate, and not just the two people, it is the voices that speak to the two people who have separated. Based on my counseling with many couples who are going through this kind of issue, you tend to hear this statement a lot. She was okay until her mother spoke to her. She was okay, he was okay until his father came into the picture. So for me, to be honest, Madam Kumenchu, is that I didn't have any problems, to be honest with you. As you said, civility won the day. When two mature people separate, everything else falls into place. You even maintain a friendship and an honorable kind of communication going forward. But if you allow me, interestingly, it was 2 days ago, I was dealing with a situation where the lady is asking for some of the vehicles. And what did the guy do? He went and rammed the car into a stone wall, so that if this is what you want, well, take it. And of course, I do have my takes on, when people enter into marriage with a view that they will divorce later, they know they have a very short time span to make as much money, buy as much property before the divorce comes. And I think that's also one of the main problems as to why the divorce cases are very acrimonious. And I'm glad that Madam Ann believes litigation and this coming together into an agreement is good. But sometimes it gets too ugly because of the reasons, There are some people who enter into marriage knowing it's a contract, that they say, I'm going to give this guy 10 years. I'm going to give this lady 10 years. So within that time, because you'll be looking for the door out, and if you look for the door out, you definitely will get the door out. So you have that short time to amass as much as possible. And then when the time comes, then you say, I want half of this, I want 50%, whatever.
Oh wow, that's powerful. The example that you give of that kind of madarau, like serious madarau, like I'll just crash the car so that you can, you wanted the car, okay, let me crash it so that you see that.
Take it, yeah.
And I'd be interested from your perspective, because I know you talk to a lot of, you counsel a lot of people, and you're very much in the relationship scene trying to advise people. And we're actually at a time when a lot of young people, like there's like a lot of conflicting information and a lot of confusion and almost like a gender war. But I'd be interested to hear from your perspective, like how is, when we're talking about marriage and separation, like, do you notice different approaches among the different generations? Like there's the young people in their 20s, there's those in their 30s, there's those in their 40s and 50s. What's your, what have you noticed? What patterns have you noticed, if you have noticed any?
Absolutely, I have, Madam Kamenchu. The young people, and sadly there's a lot of separation with the young people, but the young people largely don't end up in court. They just say, you know what, I want out. I've met somebody else, you are too much stress. But the older generation, and understandably so, imagine a woman, a lady who has given 30 years of her life to a man, and also a man giving 30 years of his life to a woman. And I've had men saying, especially the men who maybe were in business and it was a housewife, and the man would say, but you know what, I'm the one who did all this, why are you demanding a lot? But men forget that you managed to do great things in the corporate world and made so much money because that housewife gave you so much peace at home. That housewife stayed at home because she bore you 4 children. And even the Bible tells me, he that finds a wife finds a good thing and obtaineth favor. So maybe some of the things you are enjoying is as a result of the favor that you got from the lady. So the older generations would have this, and I've given you 30 years of my life. I cannot just walk out like that. The younger ones would say, you know what, I still have time to maneuver. I'll build myself. But imagine with me for a minute, a lady divorces at 67 or 65. I mean, they don't have too much time to maneuver. They can, but surely I have given you 30, 35 years of my life. I just cannot walk out as if I was a nobody. You understand? But I believe, even as they agree on that, if you and anybody watching and they're thinking of divorce or they're going through this, by the time you're divorcing, I know there's a lot of words thrown about, but do you know you once hid under one cover and lay naked? And the greatest trust you can ever give somebody is to black out in sleep in their presence, that they cannot kill you. That is now the highest form of trust. So how comes all of a sudden when it comes to property, asking for property, it's acrimonious, it's abuses, it's counter claims and counterclaims. And I'm sure Madam Anne will is very experienced in this, will be able to guide us. And I'm sure she's been around many couples abusing each other, throwing words at each other because of this. Yeah, so the younger people just want to move on and move on so quickly because they're excited. They've met some other lady with hips that don't lie. They're excited. They've met a man who has a six-pack, and has strongholds that are strong as Tarakaniti, and they just want to move on. So yes, there's a big difference. Yeah.
So maybe just the last question was like, would you be happy to just walk us through how was it for you? Like, why was it so civilized? What's the reason when you look back in retrospect?
It's maturity.
Okay.
Maturity as individuals, and then the two individuals who are mature come into a table, and there's an avalanche of maturity.
Wow.
And then when you look ahead, you're like, you know what? Naked we came, naked we will go back. And I say, from what I don't speak from a legal standpoint, but from a counselor standpoint, even the ones we have ended up settling, it's because we have told the in-laws, get out, leave us with these two people. But every time the mother is there, his father is there, mtoto wangu, you cannot come out nothing, you cannot. But the moment we tell the others, please get out. I mean, remember, Madam Komenchu, even in this country, when we were going through the post-election violence, when both principals had their soldiers, there was no light at the end of the tunnel. But when they were all removed and the two were left there with the mediator, we had the government of national unity.
Yeah. It's like a tag team, a wrestling tag team. Like there's a fighters and then there's the other ones behind them. Okay, so that's
Exactly.
fascinating. And the fact that you even again repeat that a big issue is the people that are connected, the voices that they listen to. So thank you for that, Robert. That was
Allow me to
Go
add
ahead.
something.
Mm-hmm.
It's also the way they separate.
Mm-hmm.
For example, you have built something. Let's say I'm married to somebody, and then we have built some things together because my wife has helped me. And then a slave queen comes and steals my heart. Would you blame that woman I've married by saying no? A woman from outside is coming to a table that is already set. Let me carry the chairs and let me carry the tablecloth, because I can't have worked hard for somebody who just come from nowhere to walk in and enjoy the fruits of my labor. So the reason of separation also plays a major role, and how they separated.
Wow, I can imagine that. Yeah. So we're going to come to Anne, but for now, I just want to acknowledge our attendees. We have Alphas, Edwin, Ivan, Julius, Patricia. We are way fewer than usual. I think Twitter probably is not the place where we're going to be doing our promoing. But yeah, so still I'm very happy to have you here, guys, the guys who are participating, and feel free to put in your own thoughts, your own insights. In the next hour, we'll be able to have a chance for Anne to be able to answer these questions, and also Robert will be able to answer these questions. So now maybe for Anne, it's the question. First of all, Karibu Anne, happy to have you here. One thing that I like that you continually talk about is the honor, the sanctity of marriage, the importance of marriage, the purpose of marriage. That's a term that you continually bring out. And so it would be interesting to hear from your experience how common and how first of all, let's say with how common do we see instances of marital property being divided in a mature way, like as Robert's example? How common is that, and to what extent is the sort of like the drama the more common scenario?
Thank you very much for the invite and also putting this very critical topic on the table. Matrimonial property is, like the word suggests, is property emanating from matrimony. So there is need to have a marriage first before we go to fights over the property. You know we love property, don't you?
We kill for land.
When you ask, especially when it's land, but also money. When it comes to property, many people are not able to let it go without a fight. But I have to state that we are having a growing culture of civil engagement, negotiation, mediation, just some, or even some, it's actually conciliation. They sit and they run through it, and they actually come and say, this is what we have agreed. It is something which is growing. It is not something I started practice with. By the way, it looks like I don't age. All the time I'm 25 years of practice. Now I'm heading to 29 years of practice. When we started the practice, it was more court to determine. I guess maybe it's because the law had also not grown to where we are now, because we used to use the other century's act, Married Women Property Act, an act which had even been repealed in UK is the one we were using in Kenya. We only got our own act in 2013, Matrimonial Property Act 2013. So we have our own statutes, maybe because it has spelled out what is contribution, what is matrimonial property. Maybe people are able to appreciate the law and now sit and discuss what a person is entitled to. But the fights are still there. I think most of them are in courts, but the court is also throwing them back to mediation. So there are some we settle out of court. Okay, they never went to court. We just agree in our offices and we register deeds of settlement. There are those that go to court, and the court also throws them back to court-mandated mediation. And there are those ones that beat everybody and the judge has to make a decision on them. But we are improving. This is an area of improvement, and it's, I would say many people have settled matrimonial property. You've never heard about them. They're walking on the streets, done. It's in their files, finished. You just see change of ownership. You see that one has vacated, this one has come in. It's all settled quietly in a boardroom, decent way. It's growing culture. That's the answer.
And so is it that people are going to court and then the court tells them, no, go to see a mediator, or how does that happen? Like, maybe you could just walk us through the process. Maybe if there's someone who's at this time trying to understand, how do they start? Where do they start from? Should they Should they just go straight to a mediator? Should they go straight to a lawyer? Do they go straight? Yeah. What's the process?
What has happened is that the lawyers have embraced the mediator's culture. In fact, if you go to a seasoned family lawyer, because not all lawyers have really stayed, for considerable time in the family court to understand the thinking. And of course, maybe a few don't have maybe that heart of family comes first. So let's deal with this one in a very sensitive way. But if you go to a seasoned family lawyer, they probably will call the other side for mediation. The matter has not gone to court. It is still in the law firms. And we arrest many heading to court. Some of them say, I want you to file the suit. I say, well, we can file the suit, but let's first engage the other side. And we call, we write, please come, we have this conversation. And of course, when someone is called, there's a lot of suspicion, why this person? Why
like,
this lawyer?
How really we strategize?
Yes, and who are you to call me anyway? So I have received all those kind of reactions. But finally, when they come and you spell out why you've called them, the importance of taking charge of the process, otherwise it will run away and someone else will deal with it. And the person who will deal with it does not know their landscape as well as they two know it. They calm down. So, but those ones who still feel, let's go to court, or those ones who we try it at mediation level, it doesn't work, and they go to court, the court has now embraced mediation. In fact, there's a department working alongside the family division and other divisions are coming up, where they have a registrar who deals with mediation matters. And then the court has a panel of mediators. Besides now your lawyer being a mediator, the court also has a panel of mediators, and the court can give an order that you go for mediation. So I always tell people these days, do not be quick to say, let's meet in court, because you file your suit and then you get a letter. Your matter has been evaluated and it is suitable for mediation. So you will go for mediation, Kingwa. You may go shouting and kicking. You may go there, crying, but you'll go for mediation. And you will engage. It may work, it may not work. And by the way, mediation doesn't have to work 100%. You could actually go for mediation and these three things you agree. But these two, let's refer to court. At least it has reduced the issues. So we did the 2010 Constitution. It's actually now entrenched in our Constitution, ADR, and we want it in the family disputes because we've got very positive reports from the court. Many, many matters which were stuck there have been resolved through mediation for very simple reason. And I don't know whether I should go to that or I should spell out a little bit about Matrimonial Property Act, what it says.
Yes, please.
And then I go to, but maybe let me just tie it here, why mediation works better than litigation. People are likely to be more truthful in one-to-one engagement, especially like Robert said, when the cheering team is not there. Me and you know very well, you reach a point where you say, you remember that thing, you remember how much I put in it. You don't keep saying, give me the receipts, give me an acknowledgement note, because surely you know I gave you $500,000. You see, so people are more truthful. People are more truthful in mediation. Number two, we tend to remove rights. People sometimes are so plugged into rights. We go to interests. What is your interest as opposed to what are your rights? Now, the reason many people are in court and they've been stuck in court for many years is because they feel they have a sense of, I am right, and these are my rights. But maybe you should ask yourself, what are my interests? So there was a dispute in the Bible between Lot and Abraham. And Abraham asked Lot, you know, they were fighting over, their men were fighting over pasture. And Abraham said, hey, choose. You can go this side. If you go this side, I'll go that side. What was the interest? Pasture. It doesn't have to be that we have to graze at this spot. Because sometimes we are stuck with, I have a right to be here. Sure, you have a right to be here, but what is your interest? We need the cows to be fed. So if you choose this side, I will choose this side. And Lot chose Sodom, the side, the varies. Here we have Robert, is a man of God, where Sodom and Gomorrah was. Abraham chose the hillside, and God blessed Abraham. Lot was found by fire in Sodom and Gomorrah. So it is pursuing interests as opposed to rights. That's why many cases succeed in mediation. Number 3, meet me in court. Oh, I will meet you in court. Sometimes people say that before considering the cost of litigation. And the cost of litigation, maybe number 1 is not money. Maybe number 1 is emotional engagement. It's like being in a tug of war throughout your life. Every day, you know that advert of Coke, sleep Coke, it there used to be such an advert, you know, think Coke, it. Some people, their minds have been tied by disputes. You wake up thinking, how I'm going to fight Kingwa, how I'm going to, you know, strategy all the time. It takes a toll on you. Now, with the backlog in our courts, which I'm sure our courts are really addressing, how long do you think a suit will take? It's unlikely to take 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. I have cases of 07, 08, 09 yet to be determined. Because of many factors, it's not just the court backlog, there could be other factors. So in the meantime, it's taking a toll on you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're okay. You're good. You're good.
Can you hear me?
I
Are you
think
able to
there's a
hear
problem.
me?
I think there's a problem. Yes,
Sorry,
we can hear you.
The net is unstable.
We can hear you very well.
Yeah. Yes. So you can hear me now. Yeah. So imagine 5 years, 10 years of being in a war. It will take a toll on you. It affects the quality of your life. The property is not worth it. And then there are many people who've died before they got even their rights. So we've come up with now the understanding that a good settlement, a bad settlement is better than a good judgment.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I
don't know if Anne, I think Anne has been cut short, but yeah. So
yes, sorry, I'm back. I'm trying to put a hotspot. Yes. So I was saying that how it takes a toll on you. And number 1 is emotional load. Second one, of course, time. Third one, finances. It is not cheap to litigate and keep it going for 10 years. You'll have spent a lot of money. And so the saying, a bird at hand is better than 2 in the bush. You better get a settlement for a lower percentage than you expected than stay in court for 10 years. And finally, why settlements mediation is good is simply because you get you get your share earlier than if you were in court. Simply because when you agree, you also agree on how to separate the interests. We now agree on valuations. We agree on surveyors. We agree. So finally, you walk away with your title deed. If you get a judgment in court, it will pronounce 50 for Kingwa. How do you get it? How do you retrieve it from that estate? That is a very long process. People hardly agree on valuers. People hardly agree on estate agents. People cannot agree on who will meet the cost. Give it another 4 or 5 years there after judgment. And of course, when people get a judgment, the right of appeal remains. So you could be saying, hallelujah, finally you have judgment, but tomorrow you get notice of appeal and a stay pending appeal. So my cry to Kenyans, let's embrace mediation, talking to each other. What is matrimonial property? You had defined. It is that it starts with matrimony. The word only apply where there is marriage. So sometimes people are having a hitch of, are you married or not? So you can't cohabit with someone. Then you go to court and say, oh, these are our properties. They are matrimonial property. And the first question is, are you married? That's another reason why people shouldn't do come we stay and those cohabitations, undefined relationships. Because when it comes to property, you may have, you've got to do the first case, which is, are you married? Now, you got to satisfy the judge that there is matrimony. Better, I mean, if you have your marriage certificate, that one now we're done. Now we can go to what was acquired during the subsistence of your marriage. Number one, property acquired before marriage is not matrimonial property unless it is developed by the couple. Property inherited before marriage is not matrimonial property, again, unless it is developed during coverture by the couple. Any property acquired during marriage, for example, in the name of one, there is a presumption that you hold it in trust for the other, so the other person has an interest in it. So though we work so hard to hide and acquisition of property, although hiding is going to be very hard because of Huduma number. Because you click and things come out, the government is really integrating data. So maybe soon there will be no hiding, but maybe there is no need of hiding, because even if it is in your name and it is bought during cohabitation, when you are together, there is a presumption that the other person has an interest in it. Then property acquired jointly in the name of the two. At division of property, we go 50-50. So, and then property, what is matrimonial home? People always ask that. It is property which is occupied by the party, whether they own it or not. So it includes even a leased house. So when you say property, you should not be thrown out of matrimonial home without a court order. It includes even the leased home, not just the owned home. There are prenups in our Matrimonial Property Act 2013. Watu wakubaliana, those who feel tukati chini, and we agree. This will come into marriage. This will not come into marriage. It is pre, not post. So why many people will not do it? Because pre, people are in love and they are happy and they have dreams and you don't want to spoil it with,
reality.
Disputes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the cameraman. And so many people are not embracing this. Of course, church also has, faith has an aspect that affects prenuptial discussion, because it's for better, for us, for poorer, whatever I have is yours. Those are the vows that we say. But in court, they are not taken as, they are not enforced by the court. It would be 50-50 or 100-100. What is yours is mine and what is mine is yours. You see, there will be no case in court, but they are not applied. Would I advocate for prenups? I think I would advocate for prenups for second marriages. Marriages emanating from after divorce, widows, but also after divorces. Why?
Okay.
Why? Because the likelihood is that each will come with some assets, or one will come with some assets. And then there are interested parties, children. So there is a lot of suspicion surrounding second marriages. You know, amekuja juu ya pesa. What he said, I mean, the home, it's fully set now, I'm just coming to eat. Amekuja kukula. So instead of, like, especially where there are children who are mature, always looking at this woman or this man as he's come to rob us of our assets. Maybe the idea is to have an open conversation, and you say, this one will not come and this one will come. Or going forward, okay, you or this one doesn't, or both don't come in, but what we acquire together will be ours. I have seen some people engage that very well. It's surprising. Some even include the children. So when stepmother is coming or stepfather is coming, everybody knows. Ile shamba ya kule Naivasha is
Don't
not,
touch.
In any case, the law is property acquired before marriage is not matrimonial property. So unless I bring it in, of course, the thorniest question is the one of the matrimonial home. Because for that one, even the children have very strong affiliation with it. So whether they get a stepfather or a stepmother, it is a very emotive issue. We grew up there. But sorry, I have now drifted to succession. That is now under succession.
All right.
So can property be sold without the spousal consent? No, the law now has forbidden sale of property, matrimonial property, without the spousal consent. In transactions now, it's not just sale, it's also mortgaging. In transactions of that nature, even banks will demand a spousal consent. Now, King, I don't know where you would want to go, but may I state, I like the philosophy of it. You know that? Philosophy of it. The fights we are seeing on property makes one wonder, what is the most important thing in this marriage setup? I think the order should be marriage, children, then property. We find there is a lot of, okay, we came together, but many people kept me. They never embraced we. So it's my property, it's my money, it is my property, it's me. So again, the grieving, that's why there's a lot of feature, because it's my money and my property. I have heard women being accused of this thinking. What is mine, the woman now, is mine. What is the man's is ours. So yangu naweka kando with my chama and all that.
Yeah.
Another thing which is affecting us. Then there is culture. Why do you want to be registered as co-owner? In any case, if me, the man, I am the registered owner, you're in Metosha. For very simple reason, nyinyi nyote mko wangu. You're all mine. So whatever is in my name, ours. In fact, they wonder, why are you making a big issue of this? I think there's some tint of culture in that kind of thinking. And then there are some people who have been thinking of the rainy day. The rainy day has become their life. So I'll hide for the rainy day. I will acquire for the rainy day. So people live with a lot of insecurity, all for the rainy day. I think that fear removes the we aspect in acquisition of property. Where are we in Kenya as far as ownership of matrimonial property? We are not in where some Western countries are, where it is 50-50, irrespective of who acquired it and what the contribution is. There are countries that are there. We are in another place where it depends on contribution. So the question is, what is contribution? Contribution, Kingwa, is, can be said to be monetary or non-monetary, direct or indirect. And it includes, especially the non-monetary includes childcare, not childbirth, because a man by nature will never give birth. So we cannot prejudice men on gender basis. So it's childcare, and both can actually be very good in childcare. And I want to hail the men. They have become quite good in this area. Another contribution is management of the domestic affairs. I used to ask, what does your wife do? Oh, she does nothing. She stays at home.
Ooh, nothing.
Oh, most. There's nothing like doing nothing at home. In fact, it's a full-time job, sometimes 18 hours or 15 hours. Now the law is appreciative of that fact, that management of domestic affairs is a contribution. And let me tell you, where I stand, these are the things that actually make a home. So they need to, even in quantifying contribution, they need to give a premium to these things that make us run the homes smoothly. So I had already mentioned child care. I've mentioned management of domestic affairs, farm labor also, because most of our people are in the rural areas. The only thing they do is to pick coffee and take it to the factory, or tea, or milk the cows. So if you ask that woman, what is your contribution? I mean, she has no document to show anything. But when you look at her hands, they are a testimony. She speaks coffee. She has been farm labor. So it's a contribution. Companionship is a contribution. Just accompanying, Kingwa, you accompanying the man for that, what is it called?
Family get together.
Yeah, the barrio and it is contribution. It is where marriage is. It's companionship. And then, of course, management of family business. If you own a shop and I'm spending the whole day there just working, you see, I don't get a salary for it. So whatever, that is my contribution there. What does that mean? Nobody can ever walk away empty-handed. Back to you. But I thought it's good I give that background.
That was great. And the fact that you've really gone in depth, right? Thank you. Thank you so much, Anne. You've really gone in depth and teased out all the different aspects, all the different areas that need to be kept in mind for someone who's considering getting divorced, even for someone who's, before they get married, like some of the things that's important to think about. It would be interesting to hear from your perspective more on prenups, and also there's a question that Julius has asked. We're going to come back to that, and also other guys, do feel free to put in the questions. We're going to come to them. But on prenups, how, from your experience, Madam Anne, when it comes to the end of the union, have you found that people who had prenups were a bit more, like there was a bit more sanity at the end of that? And then the second question there's a very interesting gender aspect of things that you've brought up, and it's a culture issue. And like women, I think we're brought up sort of normalizing it, that the money, my money is my money, but the man's money is our collective money. So it'll be interesting to hear, like, what is for stay-at-home mothers, for women who are not working, who've decided to become housewives, which you correctly said is like it's a huge undertaking. So what's the normal kind of split in property between, in such an instance? Like, what's the, is there an average way in which that is done, or is it just sort of like random?
Okay, thank you for the questions. There was a question about prenups. On prenups, over and above property acquired before marriage, could it address property to be acquired by either spouse during the marriage? The prenups actually guide the whole property regime. How do you want to govern property? So it can cover what you already have and what you are going to acquire. Of course, you have to be careful because there is also the right to will property, so that there is no conflict between the prenup and the wills. But we just got this Act 2013. So the jurisprudence is being grown now. And maybe that's why I may not answer your question fully on have prenups guided in division of property at the divorce level. One, simply because there are not so many which are being, not many people are doing prenups. Number two, the ones 2013 to now, they are 7 years into marriage. Maybe they didn't write theirs 2013. Maybe they married 2014. Some are still in honeymoon. So we'll only know how this jurisprudence is going to grow maybe in another 5 years, when people who have prenups start approaching court for division. But since it's a contract between the parties, from where I stand, it will make it easy because they've already agreed how to govern the matrimonial property. It should be easier. Yeah. Now, stay-at-home mother or stay-at-home father. Actually, you find in the West, it doesn't matter who is stay-at-home. Are they prejudiced when it comes to division of property? The answer lies in the premium the court will attach to non-monetary contribution. Or yes, non-monetary contribution. If all of us agree that to make the home happy and warm, you need at least one person being more keen on domestic affairs. That is our nest. That is our hiding place at the end of the day where we run. And if I'm running, and Robert mentioned it, if I'm working in the boardroom the whole day as the managing director, I have a very nice clean shirt, which the manager—
Very well ironed.
Yes, unangara. I am like that because of the person who is doing something somewhere. But also, I have peace of mind because someone is handling. I don't have to go for every small meeting, maybe in school, because my wife does it or my husband does it. I don't have to worry about small details about the home. That peace of mind should translate into something. So our law, like I had stated, is very clear on non-monetary contribution. It is there. We are moving from jurisprudence, which had pushed us so much to monetary. It was how much did you put in? So we are now in transition to where we are saying, hey, homes are run because of the non-monetary contribution. That's what keeps the homes running. We are also saying when two parents are competing, so that now I'm able to put the check, I will be away from home, you are away from home, who suffers? The children. So if all of us agree, it's important for someone to guide the children and be present. If we place a premium on stability of the children and we appreciate that stay-home spouse, whether male or female, was a stabilizing factor, then non-monetary contribution should be a big contribution. So the jurisprudence is there. I think the courts have been welcoming and the courts have been hearing. And I think people have gotten a measure of fairness on this division of property. Even where you're not able to show, I sent a check or TT of 1.5 million towards acquisition of the house. And that is where the heart of the home is. So I am also pleading that our courts will really place a premium on these things so that the homes are running smoother. Otherwise, all the women, because mainly they are the ones who are to stay home, we'll go for MBA, they come at night. We'll go for, compete for the top job. I'll do biashara so that I can place a check. And one to us, the homes are going to break and our children will go astray because there is no one monitoring. Nobody is present because everybody is chasing money.
One can actually say that that's even already happening. So is it 50-50? Is there an average figure that's there, or is it random for housewives?
Many people target 50-50.
Okay.
In most cases, you find it 50-50. But there are people, you evaluate their case, and honestly, they deserve 90.
Wow.
Because they are very strong on financial, but also very strong on non-financial.
Okay.
So we are also waiting to see. For example, they are very hands-on fathers. They are the ones known by the teachers. They are the ones doing homework. They are hands-on. But when it comes also to the check, they are the ones sending the school check. You see? And when it comes to the mortgage, it's coming directly from their account.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be the same for the woman. It could be the woman, because now our girls have gotten empowered. Now we have women in high positions.
Mm-hmm.
They are also that would be the woman. She's present during, events, but she's also placing the check on the table. So it's growing jurisprudence. We wait and see how the courts will grow this. But Kingwa, my prayer is that we will maybe at one point review our act to get it more specific on these things.
Okay.
So that it's not upon me now to labor so hard to show I was stay-home mother, but I deserve 50.
Yeah. Okay. At least that sounds a little bit encouraging. Julius has asked about prenups. I think you answered that about could it address property to be acquired? Yeah. And then Edwin says, thank you for having this conversation. Would an education acquired while under marriage be termed as matrimonial property? And if it is, wouldn't it be fair to term it enough during negotiations of property in divorce? That's an interesting question. So Anne could address that, and then we'll also come back to Robert, and then also just talking about the gender aspect of things, the culture aspect of things, and also Anne will also later address can we stay, because I guess that's another very big area that has a lot of ambiguity. So maybe to start with Edwin's question. Mm-hmm.
Sorry?
Edwin's question on education, like if someone has educated their spouse, yes.
Now, it's important to say there's something called gifts given in marriage. And if you give your spouse a gift, it is deemed to be absolute. There is a presumption it is theirs. Like you buy your spouse a nice Mercedes-Benz on her birthday. You can't later come and say it's matrimonial property. It was a gift given. So there's a presumption. Now back to the question. When you are educating your wife, what was it? Was it a gift? Say, my dear, I think you could do very well if you got an MBA. So I'm going to sponsor you. So that's a gift. On the other hand, you are doing it as at the level of we. Let us empower ourselves as a team to take care of our family. There was no deal of if you take this, then you will forgo another. I think it is very hard to factor it as an asset. But when it comes to sharing parental responsibility, let's say for the children, when you are considering the aspect of maintenance, it can be considered because you have actually empowered your spouse to earn a living. So you can say, hey, I will take these responsibilities, but she or he need to take these ones because I can MBA. Even you're having an MBA, well, my understanding is you should be able to carry some weight. But I've not seen a situation where it has been deemed to be matrimonial property per se. And then you are told tosheka na hiyo. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. And I've been hearing like a lot of like in a lot of the discussions. I don't know if Silas Nyanchwani might be listening on Facebook, but he talks about it a lot about that a lot of men pay for their spouses' education, and then later they get left. So it appears that for men that's a big area of contention and concern. So thanks for the question, Edwin. And also, guys, just please, I just put in the chat. We'd be interested to hear your own experiences. Are you married? Are you are you divorced? How was your own experience in terms of separation and dividing the matrimonial property? It would be interesting to hear that. So maybe for now, just the last question to Anne before we come back to Robert is about can we stay? Can we stay, and how does that factor into things? Because, and I think we've been saying how, like, in this age, it's like marriage is not as revered as it was in previous generations, where like previous generations marriage was like sacred and sacrosanct, but these days it's sort of like, yeah. So we then see a lot of couples together that are not married legally, but then later on they have to part. So how does that factor in division of property? What's the situation in that case?
Okay. I go back to the word matrimonial, and you have to prove marriage. So we have had cases where instead of going directly to courts, we have first of all to prove marriage. It causes a lot of delay because can you imagine if someone is selling a property now, you've just learned. But the first thing you need to prove is that you married him 5 years ago, you've been cohabiting. It would be nice if actually dowry was paid, even if it's a token. Then we'll be talking about an unregistered customary marriage. But if it is just 3 people who met 3 years ago and nobody knows where they stay, they have never gone home, no token has been paid, tumependana too, and because of kupendana, we have bought a plot in Kitengela. The question is, did you acquire that plot from spouses or you acquired qua, friends or investors? Generally, co-investors.
Partners.
Yes, because you can buy a plot with somebody else and you fight over it. Except that there is security if it is in the context of marriage, because you simply now quote the Matrimonial Property Act. So there's always delay when it comes to these cases. The second one is one of proving that case. And remember 2014 Marriage Act is not having that provision. I hear everybody quoting that if you stay with a man for six years, I think it was 6 months, you are deemed to be married. Nobody is deeming another married. The law is, you want to marry, you marry. And you marry and get a marriage certificate. And if you want customary marriage, just get a series of certificates with Jane, Dorcas, whoever. But everybody is married. The problem has been, Kenya, there is uncertainty in Kenya, and you will see it always comes out in succession cases. In fact, burial disputes, it starts there. Who is married and who is not? In some other countries, it's a very clear thing. X is married to, or some have partnership laws. X is partnered wherever. It's dealt with like partnership. In Kenya, we only have marriage laws. We don't have partnership laws. So you are either married or you are not. That is what the Marriage Act 2014 was trying to cure. Put Kenyans in a state of clarity. Am I married or not? Now, there are people who are married by way of affidavit. There is no such marriage by affidavit, because I asked some people, are you married? Yeah, we have an affidavit. You cannot be married through an affidavit.
So the new strategy being used. All right.
Yeah, because the person who witnesses is a commissioner of oaths, is not a marriage registrar. And marriage registrars are licensed by the registrar of marriages, the Attorney General's office. So a lawyer is not a registrar of marriages. So hakuna marriage by affidavit. There are
people who are living delusional right now, thinking they're okay. Oh yeah, okay,
The affidavit can support other facts to show we have had a lengthy relationship. You know, he had even acknowledged me as wife, all that. Then there are Kenyans who are married by photographs. And now, because photos can be taken anywhere, there is a time they were very scanty, because you have to go to studio, get someone with a camera, then you have to go in a tolewa. Now, photographs any day, you can take photos. Now, so there are people who say, I am married. So I say, where is the evidence? Oh, picture. Picture tukiwa na watoto, picture. There are many photos in court trying to show marriage. Now, there is no marriage through photographs.
That's not recognized.
So the most tricky now is lengthy cohabitation in a state that looks like marriage. This is what we struggle with. You've stayed for long, you've gotten children together, you have acquired property together, you are actually known as wife by reputation. You ask, whose wife is this? People will say, this is Njoroge's wife. Now, there is where we are having challenges, because even if, when you look at it, it really has a look of marriage. But I have to go to a court and ask the court to declare there is marriage. And then if I want it dissolved, I ask the court to proceed and dissolve it. So it still will call for some judicial intervention at the level of declaration that there is marriage. So I'm now answering your question. If you have this kind of a marriage, or no, this kind of a union that looks like a marriage, and when you look at it in all fairness, it's a marriage, because they have done everything husband and wife do together. You know, getting children, acquiring property, reputation, living carrying together. Each other's burdens, then I go to a resident magistrate's court. I'll have a declaration that there is marriage, and then I'll ask the court to dissolve that marriage. When I'm in the magistrate's court waiting for that declaration to be done, I can approach now the property court and I say, please stop, give an injunction to stop property being sold and all that pending division. And let me also state, as of today, the Kenyan law is that you can only separate property, divide property after divorce. So not within marriage, but in between, the court can preserve the property by giving an order for preservation or declare rights between the two. But to get your share, divorce has to be there. Now, so that is now the catch for someone in Kamwe State. They have, that's why they need to go to court for the declaration and the dissolution.
So the mediation doesn't work with Kamwe State? That doesn't happen?
Mediation will work with any of them. The problem is if one says, I'm not married.
Yeah.
Because for us to sit and mediate on matrimonial property, we must have, first of all, agreed we are married. Now people have seen a relationship between marriage and property. So you smell the rat from far, you know?
Yeah.
If you concede to marriage, you will be actually, you should be ready to let some property go. So some people have learned it. So the first thing they do is to deny marriage.
And I'd be interested to hear about the gender aspect of it. Like who's the person between men and women, who are the ones who are mostly denying the marriage? And Robert will then come to you to give your perspectives on that. So, and
what is your guess?
Men, wanaruka. So
most of the people denying marriage are men.
Okay.
At that stage. And maybe it's not that women are holier than the men. It's maybe historically, we're moving from where property was really in the hands of men. But now
that's true.
The landscape is changing.
Wow.
Even now we have young girls who are actually the ones who are acquiring property more than their spouses, or they have the capacity to acquire property than their spouses.
Yeah.
But because we are coming from the history, then majority are men.
Yeah, okay.
And of course, it would be nice to deny marriage there because of maybe other factors which we can discuss later.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that. And I'm just remembering that the word teamwork has come up a lot of times in this discussion, both brought up by yourself, Anne, and also by Robert. And like, Robert, it would be interesting to find out, like, why, from your view, from your perspective, why has marriage become so unpopular today? And especially, possibly more so with men, like even in terms of even internationally, there's this whole movement, men going their own way. Men don't want anything to do with women, let alone marrying women. It's like it's seen that women, it's like we almost have to force men to marry them. It's like, so it'd be interesting to hear from your perspective, like what's the reason for that, as compared to what, maybe 40 years ago or earlier, when men were proud to get married, like they were proud to be family men. Now, I don't know if you've come across the term simps, where men getting married are sort of, and taking care of their families are sort of like getting made fun of. So it'd be interesting to hear, just from your own perspective about the whole issue of marriage and men and gender.
Well, interesting. You're talking to a divorced man who is still not married again, but will come.
Also, give us your own thoughts, your own honest, raw truth.
Yes. First and foremost, I've just come out better in knowledge listening to Madam Anne. It's quite interesting what she has taught us, and thank you very much. Now, when it comes to why people appear in marriage, first and foremost for me, it's the modernization of a good cultural behavior. There's some things about, for me, I love study, I'm a student of history. For me, if we think of the cultural aspect of marriage, just as you rightly put it, there was a time it was honorable to be a family man. You have your wife and your children. And that goes down to the elders at that time handing over the baton of responsibility and knowledge and advice. But now, in those days, an old man with white hair like me will be respected by the younger people. Sadly, in this generation, old men with wisdom but don't seem to have financial elasticity will rubbish their wisdom. You understand? So there's that modernization of a cultural thing that I don't think should have been there. Why are men now scared? Let me speak for myself, for example. I'm a divorced man. Personally, mine is, and for a while, I struggled with, will I again marry and divorce? How will that make me look? I struggled with that notion for close to 4 years. Like, how will I marry again and go back and tell people I'm divorced? You understand? Is that, I would have really, that scared me for 4 years.
Because there's already stigma. Now, you're very right. There's a lot of stigma.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And of course, me being a minister of the gospel, and how Kenya can be very ruthless, yes, on such kind of thing. So for me, it's a culture. We are trying to be too Western. I know that may be a controversial statement, but we're trying to bring in, when people say these statements like, are you in a relationship? It's complicated. I'm in an open relationship. This behavior of, my husband. I mean, our lady actually told me when her husband travels, she has to pack condoms for him. So that I know you'll do what you have to do, but please be safe.
Just be protected.
Wow. Yes, exactly. So the question is, and I asked myself one question: is it that bad that we have lost the honor of the marriage institution? So I think we need to go back and start teaching our young men and our young women that when you enter into marriage, this is what is expected of you. But now we are entering into marriage based on photos on Instagram, photos on Twitter, photos on Facebook. So the foundation is very
Couples
shaky.
goals,
We
hashtag couples goals.
Yes, exactly. Yes. We become like a man building a 40-story building on a 4-meter foundation. And what are we seeing as a good marriage?
Wow.
We are seeing a good marriage when we see other married people showcasing affluence on social media. That is not what makes for a good marriage. But now we are raising our young people to believe for you to have a successful marriage, you must post yourself kissing your wife or your husband on social media. You must post also these things. And by the way, allow me to add, some of the people who show too much lovey-dovey on social media are not even talking at home. You understand?
Wow.
So let's go back. Let's go back and teach the right values. You understand? So that when young people come of age of marriage, they will enter into this institution with their eyes wide open, with the right knowledge, and so that they apply wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's powerful. That's
Okay.
very.
You had asked something. You had asked why more men are the ones who kind of fear marriage.
And even in the divorce. Okay.
I think it's women who are more serious about marriage. So it exposes men so much. For a lady to give herself to you, she has made a very weighty decision. A lady to decide that I want to submit under you, that's not a small decision. Most ladies must be attracted by your vision, by where you want to be, must be attracted to your substance. Sometimes us men will be attracted to the hips.
90% of the time, or what percent of the time? Like you said, sometimes. Okay.
Yes, so ladies put in a lot, and I'm not saying men we don't, but we are very mechanical. We're like, okay, fine, you have a home, I'm paying school fees, and there's food. No, ladies want a beautiful home that is not just a house, but there's peace, there's love. And that is why when a man leaves work in the evening, he says, I am going to meet my homies. That is home. When a woman leaves work, she wants to rush to the house to find out the children have done homework. Dinner is ready. Is the house clean? So most ladies rush home. Most men run to their homies to go watch football in a bar, to go watch, to have a beer or two. So we need to come back and not let people understand what marriage is all about. And I'm sure Madam Anne will tell us there's been a lot of conflict in marriages during COVID, because now all of a sudden they don't know how to handle each other when they spend 24 hours because they're both working from home. Somebody said something very crazy. We must respect the bars. They seem to have kept the marriages strong because people go to bars and they don't spend too much time with their spouses.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. That's very powerful. And I like the fact that you brought out the foundation of marriage. And it's something that Anne talks about quite a bit, the philosophy of marriage. And it now brings to mind the question of, because it is true that more women are serious about marriage, and because they are the ones, like, their whole lives change. Like, marriage can affect a woman's life way more than a man's would. So it brings to mind a topic that's been coming up recently about are the young men of today, have they been disempowered? Is the economic situation taking care of them in a way that like, is the economic and social situation conducive for them to start their own families? In this time when there's widespread unemployment, and I mean, the whole story of people having master's degrees and not having jobs and just having to start and do anything. So that's a very interesting thing that you brought to mind, Robert. Thank you. Alphas Rono in the chat says, what is a legal position of prenuptial agreements in the current legal regime? So Alphas Rono asked, and that question goes to Anne about the legal position of prenuptial agreements. And then there's another question, anonymous, which says, there are situations whereby one partner holds some of the properties in trust for the siblings, or so for either for reasons being abroad or otherwise, but enjoys its income and liabilities as well. Would such properties be subject to matrimonial property divorce proceedings or negotiations? So where the partner is holding property for their siblings. Yeah, so that's another question for Anne. And also, Robert, would be happy to also hear your own thoughts on that, and also your own reflections on the whole concept of prenups, if prenups do work. So but maybe Anne could come first, and then we could hear from you, Robert. Okay, Anne, I think we need to unmute you.
Yes. Property which is held in trust is not matrimonial property. I should have mentioned that. That one is covered by the Act. It is so also the land which is under customary law held by maybe one brother on behalf of the others, or one sibling on behalf of the others. It's not part of matrimonial property, so a person cannot go and claim it. Or any other trust property you are holding. On prenups, I think I'd already mentioned it. They are in the Act. Few people embracing them, growing culture, still contentious in certain aspects, or questions arising, especially from the side of faith. Why do a prenup if while you've given each other for life? And I'd also say jurisprudence is growing in court, and only wait and see how the court will handle them in property dispute. But they are contracts, so they should be helpful in whatever kind of engagement the parties adopt at the point of division of property.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that clarification. So back to Robert, and I also want to bring in the fact that you talked about the elders, and that previously they were handing on over the baton of responsibility and advice, but in this society today, it's like elders, there's such a disconnect among the generations, the older generation, the younger generation. The younger generation are getting their culture, their values from TV. So they're not solid in terms of our traditions, which aspects, yes, some of aspects were not good, but others were very life-giving. Yeah, so just again, back to you again on your thoughts on prenup, and also it would be interesting to hear to what extent, again, is that the current situation? To what extent would you say it's socio-economic rather than a personal thing about fear?
You know, about the prenup, of course, you'll allow me to come from a pastoral or a religious angle. I'm a believer, yes, these things happen, as they say in Kiswahili, kwa ground vitu ni different. But if I was to come from a biblical place, it is, if I love you and you love me, and yes, it's ironic coming from me, who is a pastor and divorced, but I just still, the fact that I divorced, I'm not gonna hide and cover up where I went wrong. So for me, is when you enter into a prenup, you are telling somebody at the back of their mind that just be sure, just know I can leave anytime. So if we break up, this is mine and that is yours. So will we dig more into the foundation in strengthening this marriage? No, anything small happens, you're like, no, and that's, I believe now that's what people now start hiding some things because we don't have a long-term future together. So I go back to, why were our grandparents married for 70 years? What is it that they did right that we are doing wrong. You understand? And yes, people are looking for advice on TV. If you're going to watch TV, there's a program called The Bold and the Beautiful. We are seeing, I think, a guy called Ridge Forrester who was married to a lady called Brooke Logan, and Brooke Logan ended up sleeping with her husband's father. You understand what I'm saying? So those are the things that are teaching us. Kigo, allow me to add this. The greatest wisdom is walking towards the grave. We have ignored the old men and women.
Wow.
We
Wow.
think they need us more than we need them. All we do is, oh, but I send my grandfather M-Pesa. Let me tell you, yes, they are grateful you have sent them the M-Pesa. But if only you knew the weight of knowledge and wisdom that they have, they may not be as educated as you are doing your master's and a PhD, because right now you can do it online. They did not have that privilege. But there is a wisdom, there is knowledge they have that you will not find in the London School of Economics, you will not find in the Harvard School of Law. There is a wisdom they have. You know, these days in December, where do young people go? They are going to Mombasa to the beaches, they are going to Naivasha for Nyamachoma.
Dubai.
And they are sending, yes, and they are sending their young children to be taken care of by their grandparents and parents who are old at home. When will we go back to those days? We all go to the village. At my age, I sit with the grandfather, I sit with the grandmother, and they tell us how they manage conflict resolution. Today, you have a conflict with your spouse, you're on Facebook. Hashtag long post alert. And you start saying everything wrong your husband has done, everything wrong your wife has done, and you abuse each other. Why can't we go and get this much needed wisdom? This first, do you know a greater percentage? I think it was one European country that they said 60% of the divorce cases have the name Facebook in it.
Wow.
Yeah. And we're abusing each other like small kids. Let's go back and get this wisdom. I believe maybe, allow me to add, my marriage lasted 1 year and 2 days. What if maybe I had sat with some old man? Well, my grandfather had 16 wives, I think. I needed to him to find out, he can tell me about man management. Maybe I would have learned a few things about man management. You understand? So I think there's a wisdom that we need. And I wish this Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everything can go off somehow by divine orchestration, go off for 48 hours.
Yeah.
We shall go back to the roots. And then when it comes back, we shall now have respected some things that the African culture had that Facebook and internet is trying to erode.
Okay, you're so right. And it brings to mind how the instant generation, like everything, it's, yeah, like the whole, all this social media is part of that instant generation. So people are getting married instantly, getting divorced instantly, and all that.
Yes.
It would be interesting to hear you speak about your thoughts, your perspectives on this, on the economic conditions, on the current economic conditions in Kenya today, for example. Like, to what extent are those also affecting relationships for young men as compared to like maybe 20, 30 years ago? Are you noticing any difference? Do you think that has something to do with all of this, or it's not related?
There is because of the reasons we enter into marriage. The main reason for marriage should be purpose. By the way, not even children. Purpose first. Children are a gift from God based on a purposeful marriage. Now, people now are entering, people are falling in love because a man drives a 4x4. A lady owns 3 holiday homes. So when you come in for those reasons, we are going into marriages because we can all go on holiday in Dubai and post on Instagram. So when our economic power and prowess is challenged or stretched, what brought us together is now breaking from the middle. So then, if I go through those situations whereby there's a little bit of hell and high water, then why am I with you? So let me look for another man, and largely a married man who has so much money and he can distribute to a few slave queens here and there. So we need to go back again. And by the way, and maybe the lawyers will have an easier time. If we enter because of money, 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 the moment there's infidelity or there's suspect or suspicion of infidelity, they will go to Madam Anne and say, listen, I want to take off, but I'm not taking off before we separate this wealth. I will continue sleeping with her or sleeping with him. I'll put myself at risk, but I'm not living without this money. You understand? So again, it goes back to wisdom, culture. There are some things I will never agree with that have come into the African society from the Western world. I will never, ever, ever agree, no matter what anybody tells me. Now, what is this nonsense of open relationship? I talked about, and I'm sorry, let me add this because you're a voice. I live somewhere, and in one of the mansions, there was it's known as a swinging mansion. What is a swinging mansion? Where a husband walks in with a wife, and then you meet other couples, and then you exchange partners, and you are enjoying your wife pleasuring another man. And then you're there as a grown man with a white beard like me and 75 chest hair, and you're asking, honey, are you enjoying it? Now, what has happened to marriage? What has happened? And then you as a woman, you are seeing another woman cowgirling your husband, and you're asking your husband, honey, is that okay? And then you go home, and then you say, we love each other. No, let's go. I mean, maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I'm going to remain old-fashioned.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. And so guys in the chat, we'd also want to hear your thoughts about all this. Please type in to share your thoughts. I think today we might actually, we've captured so much. And I like the fact that we are sort of like taking it back to the values, wisdom, tradition. It's actually a discussion I've been having informally with one of my uncles and my dad, because they've been saying the exact same thing, that the young men of today are lost. The young women of today are also lost, because in fact, in the previous sessions, I think we had a lot more focus on young women. And we've been talking with Anne separately and just noticing that really the complete lack of understanding of the role of marriage, the philosophy of marriage, even the self-respect, because we're in a very permissive time. Us guys, when we were growing up, it was a bit less permissive, but we were still excited by the permissiveness. But then, I keep on saying that permissiveness comes with a cost, whether we would want to acknowledge it or not. And so we're at a time when we need to start asking ourselves, how much more do we want to enable? What kind of society are we trying to create? Are we even consciously creating it, or are we just living in default? Like this is happening, okay, Robert seems to have, we seem to have lost him, but I think we actually will be ending a bit early today. So maybe if there's no other questions or any comments that anyone would like to make, maybe we could just end with possibly last words from Anne about this whole matrimonial property and disputes and the way, just really last words for now. Yeah.
Yes. I think it is very important for us to understand, and by the way, I associate myself with the sentiments of Robert, that the reason why marriage is dying is because we have very wrong lack of philosophy or right philosophy for it. It's also something which has been commercialized, romanticized. So when you come to the reality is always harsher than the dream. And so I back out. This is not what I was hoping to get. Let me give my last words on what kind of attitude should we embrace if we find ourselves at the level of division of matrimonial property. And as I state this, it's not that we are encouraging anybody to go through divorce. Divorce is a very painful thing. And it defines it kind of affects the rest of your life. Some people pick lessons and they learn, and some people keep going around in the wilderness like the children of Israel for 40 years. So marriage is precious, marriage is God ordained. It should be nice with ways of it. In the event that one division of property, I think it's very important to understand. It's very important to understand that we all have a life interest in the property we have. All of us. Even if you hold a title which reads absolute, it's a life interest. You only need assets in your lifetime, and you say goodbye to it and you go. I have, through my 28 years in court, seen people fight over property, nail and tooth. And some did not even get the title, but before you got your share, people died. And I always ask, what was all that about? So it is, we all hold a life interest. So to shikilie mali too tightly, it is a life interest. In fact, what you own, especially land, it had been owned by somebody else. You're not the first owner, nor are you going to be the last owner. So attitude number one. Number two, property in marriage sometimes has become, in some marriages, is actually the reason for division or for divorce. Property should never be a reason for divorce, in the sense that property per se does not give you happiness. I've seen people who walked away with a chunk, fair share, lion's share. But I've studied them over time, 5 years, 6 years, 10, comfort you may have, but happiness is not guaranteed by wealth. The Bible says a man's happiness does not depend on the abundance of their possession. Otherwise, so many people will be very happy because they own a lot. But money per se does not give happiness. It may give comfort. So given between living happily with someone where we are sharing the property at the level of we, versus me walking away with my 90% to be alone, I would rather share with someone, because it's all a life interest. So if it's going to make me happier, because I have companionship, I have, someone to talk to and watch news with, then there's greater value there. And then when it comes to division of property, what we look for is something called fairness. Fairness is very hard to define, but it's something we all feel. That is fair. I think we should aim to promote fairness in division of property. And that's why I always feel like it is best if it is at mediation level, two people who know each other, they know actually what is fair. And then finally, whatever you live with your spouse, most likely it will go to your children at succession level. Some people are so pained that he's gotten something, Well, I think they pay. Mama amechukua shamba. By the way, most women don't remarry. Most men remarry. So actually what you live with your wife, chances are maybe 90%, it will end up with your children. So though you hold it for some time and you feel it's so unfair, how can she be holding it? Honestly speaking, your children will benefit from it, including the degree we had talked about, educating your wife. When you part with an educated wife, maybe your children have higher level of getting, higher chances of getting a better standard of living. So I think it is, let's look beyond giving her to who is behind, that the children may end up being heirs. And in it all, we still vouch for marriage. And we still say, marriage is a better thing because even those who divorced you go looking for another marriage. So there must be something in marriage that all of us love. So instead of going to number 3 and 4 and 5, maybe the idea is to grow what you have. So if there are property disputes which are likely to push us to marriage, it would be nice if to divorce, it would be nice if we sat down and we say, happiness is more important than marriage. So let's work at it and let's, by the way, lack of property is not a permanent situation. In fact, being broke today is not a permanent situation. I could be broke today and tomorrow I'll be swimming in shilling, some dollars maybe. So temporary situations should not make people divorce. If he's lost a job or she's lost a job, now hana kitu, that may not be the situation tomorrow. So I think we need to learn to bear with each other in tough times. And there is always light at the end of the tunnel. So thank you very much, Kingwa.
Thank you so much for your wisdom as always. And just really your wisdom, because even beyond the legal knowledge, what you really share is your wisdom and your insights and just really your ability to balance the realistic with the idealistic. So thank you so much for that, Anne. There's a comment by Mwami. I saw Julius, I saw that you tried to you raised your hand. Julius, if you have a comment, please feel free to type it in the chat or in the Q&A. Ivan Mwami says, I think a life marriage is an institution that might fail. Life marriage in quotes. We are living in a fast world, meeting new people every day. The allure of marriage for life is rather hard. I think a prenup is the best way to go. Thank you for that comment, Ivan. And I think because a lot of the time there's a question of monogamy versus the question of, is monogamy possible or is it not? I think we're still grappling with it, and we say that our forefathers knew what to do. That's why there was polygamy. So I don't know what the answer to that will be. So maybe Robert, you could share your.
May I interject there, Kingwa, because
yes,
there is an aspect we've not discussed of matrimonial property, and you've just prompted it's come up.
Mm-hmm.
How do you divide property in polygamous setup? Because if I'm wife number 3 and I want to go and all of us are holding certificates, then I need my share. Mm-hmm. Now, I can tell you when this act was being drafted, people are scratching their heads on how to get it right on polygamous setup. And sorry to take you back, but I think this is important.
Right. Yeah, it is. Actually, it had crossed my mind as well.
This is what ended up entering the act. If wife number 1 is to divorce husband, before the assumption is hala wengine hawajakuja, they go 50-50 on the assets that they have. Maybe that assumes that if he declares I'm bringing wife number 2, wife number 1 says kwanza nipatie yangu. So 50-50. Wife number 3 and number 4 and others come, it will look like a company where we now at the point of division. So if it's wife number 3 divorcing, we will now look at the property acquired between the time there was separation with wife number 1, and okay, we are dealing with wife number 3. From the time wife number 2 came, what was there? Then what have they acquired together? Then she gets a share from there. The biggest question in polygamy is always, how do you ensure everybody works hard and people don't just come to eat other people's sweat? A very hard case. And then we complicated it by saying that one wife can acquire property with the husband separately. So you are wife number 5, but separately you can acquire property with the man, excluding the others. Now that is why litigation will never come to an end, because you can see it is very rich for disputes. Yeah. But that's, in summary, that's how we do property division in polygamous setup.
And the law actually allows for if wife number 2 and husband have made money separately, that the other wives cannot touch it.
You know, the question is, what is separate in this setup? It's very, very hard to pick and say this is separate, because if the man is to invest in that investment with wife number 3, there is something we also acquired together with him. How is he going to severe and say this one has no any taint of the past? There is no dot coming from the past. Now this is pure. It's for me and Joaquin, wife number 3.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying reach for litigation. And why should the man who, by the way, it looks like the share of the man will keep reducing, because half goes with the first wife. I don't know why you have smiled like you are happy about us.
No.
The share of
all right.
What causes
I think it has frozen.
Yeah, I think she's frozen.
It's all right. Okay. That was fascinating. Actually, we had forgotten about the polygamous unions. Yeah. Yet there are strong reality here. So we actually
sorry.
That's okay.
Is she back on?
I think she had come for a minute or 2, but I think she's
okay. Let me give
so
my closing remarks.
Yes, please.
Yeah, for me, I believe marriage is a good idea. Marriage is a God idea. I'm not a believer. I know some things do happen, but if you enter into marriage thinking of the way out, imagine you will get the way out. When you look for the door that will make you leave, you will get it, you know? So even if you're in court, remember you're in court with the same person you once loved and loved very, very deeply. So let wisdom prevail, let respect prevail, let honor prevail, and let everybody be happy. And of course, Madam President, it's an honor to be on your platform. I take it not for granted. You're a great lady. Allow me just to say that, you know, deep and with a good heart. You know, many people sometimes look at the public figures and they don't know they have a heart. I'm telling you, I've sat and talked with you, and I just honor you today. And God richly bless you.
Thank you so much, Robert. You're extremely gracious. Thank you. I'm honored for you to say that. Thank you. Anne was cut off as she was talking, but so I think she'll just quickly give her last remarks. For now, I'm sharing the contacts of, if anyone would like to follow up with either Robert or Anne. I'm sharing Anne's organization details here. Also want to show you guys Robert's, this is one of his books. Where can guys get them? Where can they buy them?
Textbook Center.
Textbook Center, right? Okay. And then I will also, what's the best way for you to be contacted? If anyone would like to get, because I know you do counseling and emceeing, among many others.
There's a number I can give you. Are you going to type it as I give it to you?
Yeah, I can do that. Mm-hmm.
That's 0716 733 672.
Okay.
Yes, and of course to all the people who have watched is to say thank you, and we do hope that people have gotten the right needed knowledge. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Robert. And you were cut short just as you were, I think, as you were ending. I see Nyarari raising your hand. Please just type in your comment in the chat or in the Q&A. We'll be happy to share it. Just type in your chat, in the chat, Betty. I think that's Betty. Yes, and I think you were just cut short as you were speaking.
Sorry, yes, my net has been a bit unstable. But it's kind of, we were tying up on the issue of polygamy. And I was saying that when you bring polygamy in marriage, the law is that it's very hard for the law to provide for all scenarios that could arise in that context. So Kingwa, I'm really not I've been an advocate of monogamy. And it's not because we just want people to live right. It's just the complications polygamy bring in the legal context. Is marriage, I saw a comment there that marriage is a fading institution. Marriage is not going to fade for a very simple reason that it's God ordained. It is still the institution with greatest joys. And of course, if it doesn't work, it can bring very painful experiences. So I don't think marriage is a fading institution. I agree with Robert. Maybe it's for us to check again the foundation. Are the foundations right? Are we having mentors? Again, you have to remember that bad news travel faster than good news. So there are many, many marriages that are working and they're working well. There are many fathers who are discharging their duties very well, but we only hear the bad cases. It is not all lost, but something needs to be done if we are to go back to the situation where marriage is respected and honored. But it's not going to die because it's God's idea. God's ideas don't die. No, not at all.
That is true. And the human will to live is stronger than anything else. So Nyarari says, she has a question for you. So let me read it out. So Nyarari says, thank you for the informative discourse on today's reality of marriage. And then she asks to Anne Bogwa, why are there disinterested young people in marriage? Why are there disinterested young people in marriage?
Well, good question that can be asked. Actually, maybe Robert is better placed, but let me give it a shot. Why are many young people disinterested? I think they are lacking modeling. They haven't seen good marriages demonstrated and lived. But even as I say so, the percentage of marriages surviving is still higher than the ones of breaking, the ones which are breaking. At the same time, the young people appear to live in, sometimes in my view, and sorry if I don't sound right, they live in a virtual world. my view, and I have young ones in my house, so I've observed them. They live in a world where you don't have many direct in-person relationships. You have more followers and customers online, and a lot is online. When we were in the university, I remember the dating was at Arboretum, and people used to go with just maybe a sandwich, and they sit the whole afternoon talking. So you get to know who the person is, what their thinking is, what are their values, etc., in a very real world. There was nothing like posting photos where people have done Photoshop. So you look so nice. People are dealing with each other with their pimples. You can see her face has many pimples. It is real. So I guess the disappointments were less. But I think now we have relationships which are more virtual than one-to-one. And marriage is about collecting garbage in the morning, making beds, dealing with in-laws, placing food on the table.
Taking children
it sounds like hard work. It sounds like hard work. The people are also, in marriage, there's no hiding. There's no wearing of artificial eyelashes, artificial hair. You somehow offload, unaziangusha angusha, unaingia bed. So this is real. And then giving up. I think the microwave has taught us how to do things quickly. When I was growing up, and I think, well, maybe you also remember this. When your mother said, I'm going to make food, you brace yourself for several hours because she has to peel potatoes. Then she's going to collect firewood. Then people have to make the fire. Then water has to come from it. By the time food is on the table for you, umegojea. But now there are apps, you just call, and then the microwave has made it easy. You can make it quick. So I think endurance is lacking in the young generation. When we are growing up, we did 7 kilometers to and 7 from school. Wow. Big lesson on endurance. And you are coming back hungry. So you have to wait until home for you to have a snack. If you find your mother has boiled some sweet potatoes and you say, hallelujah, and you attack them. But now, where is endurance taught? Who is teaching people to stretch? So these fruits of the Holy Spirit, forbearance, perseverance, they are actually lacking because we are used to quick solutions. When I did my dissertation in the university, I typed everything. We were typing. Now you cut and paste. So when I go into marriage, yes, you Google. Now, when you go into marriage, you find someone called mother-in-law, who you have found there. You see, who gave lessons on how to deal with mother-in-law, who is an asset. She's not a liability, she's an asset. Wow. She's mother of husband. Wow. And she can be a wonderful ally. But wow. Who taught you how to deal with her? You see, so you find things you can't Google the answer. You've got to deal with practicals. Then you find sickness. Who taught us how to deal with each other in sickness? Then you went looking for someone who is handsome and all that. What if he's deformed? Wow. We also went looking for money. Oh, the guy drives. What if the auctioneer has attached the vehicle because anyway it was on loan from hire purchase? So so the person who you are living with is not the person you dated. So I think we need to go back to real life. And I think we are losing it at dating level. We need to date real people. Dating should be real. Face to face, basic. People know each other. Hakuna kitu ya kuficha. This is me. But I think there is also too much posting. I see it even with my kids. Every food is posted to show where you. I think people create the life they would want to live, wow. But that's not they create it wow. There. That's not the life they are living. So
they're not grounded in reality.
Yes, and let me tell you. Yes, Hollywood has also, not Hollywood, anybody who creates an image of just romance, how love should be. You find actually what keeps marriage is really not romance. What keeps a marriage really is determination, commitment. I am going to live with him or her, whether she's deformed, whether she grows fat after giving birth to children, I have made a commitment. Because feelings fade, beauty also fades. Tall and handsome doesn't end tall and handsome. Sickness does strike, poverty also comes. So what will keep me there is commitment. Nimeamua. So I think we need to go back to commitment. And maybe that's why some arranged marriages were working, Kenya. Mm-hmm. Because you met the person and you said, I will marry this one. It's more a commitment than, oh, I am head to heels in love. He swept me off my feet after a little while. And if that feeling fades, there is no commitment. But I'm old school. I'm also Christian. And maybe now after being in the divorce court for so long, maybe I'm just real. Wow. So I think all these things we put first, maybe number 1 and 2 in the list of who you are looking for should not be number 1 and 2. Money, tall and handsome, beautiful, da, da, da. Yes, those things are good and they facilitate. Maybe we need to lift something which appears down in people's lists. And who is he? Who is she? Character, values. Yes, because you have seen people who don't look very nice, but they are happily married. They are not tall and handsome, beautiful with a Coca-Cola figure. But it's working. What is making it work? And there are some people who are very happy in poverty. And they are working together. They have a we thing. Bring sukuma na ugali na chakula na tufurahie. How is it there is a lot of divorce in the affluent families? So is number 1, 2, 3 in the list of, who I'm looking for, really what should be there? Or we should consider lifting others up. I speak passionately to our daughters. And our daughters have acted for them in the divorce cases. I'm also acting for them in the children's court. Let's not despise small beginnings. You can have a man who does not have all those, especially Mfuko, but has potential. Has potential, is hardworking, and has character. That is likely to be the rich man you are admiring now. Give him 10 years. And for some reason, after 10 years, they even look better. Maybe because they, Nanguo.
They fill out.
They can do designer now, But if you see a married man somewhere, there's a woman who has worked on that man for a long time. Pick one of these with potential and go make that, that product you dream about. Please, most men look free, but they are not free and available. And follow the cases that are happening in court. There are some men who've been taken to court by the women who they deceived that they are single. And in court, they say, oh no, I have no capacity to marry. I'm still married to my wife.
Oh my
so they
God.
look free, but they are not free. Our daughters, potential, give time to potential. You will have that dream product in another 10 years or less. Don't always run for finished products. It's somebody else's work. Let it be. Thank you. I'm mother of daughters. I really plead with them because I'm acting for them. And I ask, how did you get involved in a married man? Oh, yeah, he promised this. But that's just promises, guys. Some even say they are single. Then you discover later they are married. Some said, I'm leaving my wife. Then you discover they are still married. So there is some deception somewhere. It needs to be unclothed, and we just say, you know what? What really matters is a heart-to-heart relationship. If you can get it with a young man, it could be a campus, maybe you are together in campus, but you grow together and age together. What a beauty, you see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much. I like it when you actually even go into the real things and discuss and just even advising people like a parent would, because I think a lot of, parental advice, parental wisdom, unfortunately, is a rare commodity these days. So thank you so much for that, for going the extra mile, not just giving us the legal side of things, but your insights, your observations, and your own advice. So thank you so much. Nyarari Amumbi says the virtual world is a whole world itself. So guys, thank you so much, everyone that was here today, for just really participating and sitting in. We were streaming also on Facebook, on the Muslimian Advocates page, on the Black Star page, and on my page. So we haven't been looking at the comments there, but I'll probably respond later on. So yeah, thank you everyone. A lot of food for thought. Robert as well was amazing. So thank you, Robert. I think the internet had you drop off early on. So yeah, for now, just to say, go out and be of good character and good and as much wisdom as possible. And yeah, just enjoy your weekend and the rest of the coming week. All right, asanteni. And
Thank you.